Oh, hey, we're live. Cool. Welcome to WP Dev Table, our more or less weekly roundtable discussion with a bunch of developers talking about WordPress, best practices, and other developer stuff. So I am joined with Jason and Bronson, and I think this week will be a bit more of a recap, talking about the things we've been doing since the last time we had our somewhat weekly discussion. Most notably, I think, would be WordCamp New York. But Jason, tell us what you've been up to lately.
Yeah. Well, like you said, I've been doing a lot of client work lately. WordCamp New York was just this past weekend, so that was my first foray in speaking at a WordCamp, or really speaking in general. So had some nerves, obviously, but once I was up there, it was pretty good. You know, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. I was more worried about like I don't know, the tech working, like making sure the mic was good, that kind of stuff, more than like really what I was talking about. But did have an interesting story since the New York Marathon was the same morning, and I actually couldn't get to the hotel, so we had to park like 2 miles south of the hotel and huff it all the way up.
So you had your own little mini marathon to get there.
Yeah, exactly. So, that was an event. So calling the organizers on the way while I was all out of breath trying to get up there. Luckily, I left early enough and made it there in time. So,
Awesome.
so that was interesting.
And how many tracks did they have this year? Because it's known for being a big WordCamp, lots of tracks.
Yeah, they had 4. I guess that was the same as last year too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 4 tracks, each borough getting represented, and Staten Island was there. It was the room for the contributor day on Friday the day before. Those people that were like, no Staten Island, it was there. It's okay.
Oh, I didn't even realize.
Uh, well, that's how easily we forget about that other borough, right?
Yeah. Well, it's forgettable.
And what were your favourite talks, gents, for what you saw?
I only went to maybe 3 talks, I think. I saw Tom Noel talk about escaping insanitization.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Jordan's insights on how sci-fi and fantasy can be related to WordPress and what we do in the open source community, and Scott Taylor's recap of everything that is and will be WordPress 4.4. So those were all excellent talks.
Yeah, I would have to say Aaron's was probably my favorite. And Scott's was also very good. He could have definitely used like an hour and a half. I would have liked to hear more of his stuff, but those 2 were definitely my favorites.
Maybe we should try and see if we can get Scott on the show, because I think he's New York based too, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's only a few blocks away over in the Times building.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, that would be fun to have him, maybe even Eric Lewis on, who also works with him and also spoke over the weekend. And
Yeah.
his talk was on HTTPS. So
Oh,
definitely
cool.
a useful one for the future of the web and web security.
Mm.
And Eric Lewis and I, well, mostly Eric Lewis, we did a kind of a workshop meetup a couple of weeks ago on a Saturday morning. So we got to do the bagels and coffee and have kind of a nice hands-on environment for more or less a dry run of what his talk was over the weekend. Other than me oversleeping and them having to work out of a Starbucks for half the time, I think it went well. Then we came back over, here to the office and did the bagels and coffee. So that was fun.
Cool.
Yeah. So I mean that was a good event. There was lots of people as always. The other thing that I was actually I don't know if it was working on or just really moving was the decision to shut down WP Field Guides, or kind of shut it down. I'm just kind of repurposing it in a different manner now, where instead could have kind of give it out as content on blog posts, under my normal blog, just as some of the things that I had found out with that was just not necessarily that, it didn't sell as well as I thought it would. But there was definitely some interest, and I would get pinged by a lot of people about it and things like that. And the newsletter was decent size as well. So I just felt that instead of kind of putting up that paywall, I could use that in a different way and kind of share that information still out with the community. And being that it was kind of like my blog and Field Guides was kind of putting out the same content, so to speak, and kind of like fighting the tug of war battle between me coming up with blog posts anyway. I just figured that let me do this, and which was actually kind of funny because WPMU's daily newsletter picked it up, and one morning all of a sudden I was getting all of this traffic, and I was getting notices because every time somebody downloaded a field guide, because it's for free now, I would get a notification on it, and I really thought that I was getting like I don't know, attacked or tons of spam or what was going on. I didn't know what was going on until I found somebody on Twitter that was shared the link, and he kind of, because I wasn't a subscriber to that newsletter, so but that was interesting morning to say the least, because it was all direct traffic, and I was like, okay, so this isn't a referral, this isn't somebody, what is going on here? So, but that was interesting for 3 days. I actually wound up doubling my mailing list just by doing that and getting picked up. So
very cool.
What have you been up to, Bronson?
I had a holiday for about a month and a bit. Probably why the show lost a bit of momentum. And other than that, been back to it at work, doing lots of client work. So we've got quite a few interesting projects on. We'll probably all delve a little bit deep into our projects, because I think it's interesting to talk about what we're up to with WordPress to inspire people and talk about unusual things, learn from each other. So one of the ones that I've been working on is for a real estate agent company, and they sell retirement villages and properties within those villages. They have retirement villages and they have properties in there. So we've got some custom post types in there. Got a lot of relationships that we're using post-to-posts for. Got a custom search. There's some custom XML feeds. We also had to import all their content from Joomla into WordPress. So there was some tricky WP CLI scripts there. We're also using Site Origin's Page Builder plugin, because this client actually wanted a bit more control over a lot of pages. They have a lot of landing pages internally as well. So we had to build out a whole bunch of widgets for them. And I don't know if you guys have used Site Origin Page Builder before, have you?
Yeah, I have. I found my clients thought it was way overwhelming, though. Did you restrict what they could do with it, or you kind of just left it open?
Kind of left it open. We actually built a lot of custom widgets on top of this. The client's fairly tech savvy.
Okay.
And so we found ourselves, and she had really specific requirements. So there was a bunch of custom post types that we had to create for this, and of course, to give her access to do things with those custom post types, we actually had to build custom Site Origin page builder widgets. I think we ended up building about 10 in total. The good thing about it is Greg, who makes it, has documented how to build your own widgets really well, and they're quite simple to build. Yep. So we pushed out a whole bunch of those. We did have an interesting situation where we had to build an importer, because we had, from Joomla into WordPress, it had come in and it would just be straight in the content originally, but Site Origin Page Builder actually doesn't store its content in the page content. It uses site meta, and it's in a serialized array. So we then had to build another kind of importer-exporter that would take it out of the content, kind of look over it using regex, and then serialize it, then pop it into widgets. So that was a little bit crazy. So Jafe, one of our team members, decided to tackle that one. He did it in an unusual way too. So rather than doing it in PHP, he actually used Node, and he did it directly into the MySQL. And because he did it that way too, it could, rather than doing individual posts, pages one at a time, it could actually do them all at once. So, for example, one of the content types was the properties, and there were 2,000 properties. And by doing this in Node, it only took 6 seconds to do all of that. Whereas if we'd done it in PHP, you can imagine how long it would have taken. So, pretty unusual project, and some tricky challenges for all of us and the team.
Nice.
That's one of them. What about you, Tom? What have you been up to?
A lot of my past month or couple months has been working on planning WordCamp New York. So I was one of the organizers for that, and I ran the contributor day on Friday. So that worked out really well.
How'd you find it?
It was an interesting and rewarding experience. I definitely slept well each night of the WordCamp, to say the least. But we had a great group of people that came out for Contributor Day. A lot of team leads and members of different teams in the WordPress community. So they were able to go and help a lot of people get set up and start contributing to whatever area of WordPress they wanted to get involved in. So that worked out really good. And then I didn't have to really do a whole lot during the actual days of the WordCamp itself. Help people if they had questions or couldn't find where they were going, that kind of thing. But that was more or less the gist of it, and it was a great time. So hopefully I'll be involved in the organizing next year. If not, I'm sure some great people will take it over and run with it. It's always good to get new people involved in that process. But the organizers, not just the organizers, but the volunteers did a fantastic job too. So everything from emceeing the rooms to doing the video to everything else involved in running an event of 500 plus people like that. So it was really fun, and they did a fantastic job. WordPress wise, like from a coding point, I gave a talk on a bracket system that I built for the New York Post and their sites. So like tournament brackets, like basketball tournaments, or matching up characters from TV shows, or comparing e-commerce products against each other, that kind of stuff. So that was a fun talk, and surprisingly, I got a lot more questions during the Q&A than I normally get, I guess. So I ended up using the full amount of time that I had, which is probably the first time in a long time that I've gone exactly 2 times. So yeah, that was fun. Coding-wise, I've started working with Underscore a lot more, doing like mustache templates, and I've been using Gulp more instead of using Grunt. So that's been cool. I've enjoyed using Gulp a lot. It seems to be a lot more efficient and just do a better job overall. It makes everything much cleaner and more optimized than using something like Grunt.
Yeah, I found that as well. I switched over to Gulp maybe, I don't know, 6 months ago, and same thing. It's faster, more efficient. I haven't seen anything where, I was doing something in Grunt that I haven't been able to do in Gulp. So
yeah, it seems like they both offer the same types of packages. So, why not use the better tool?
Totally. I'm wondering if you guys have kind of run into this, because I've started really ramping up my clients, whether they know it or not, more into CI, continuous integration, and things like that. So I've used Bitbucket for a long time. I don't know if you guys have had some issues with it lately, maybe over the past couple of months or not. I've just found that like the webhooks and things like that, like going out to Slack, or even just for certain deployment processes with Jenkins and things like that, it's not picking it up, and then obviously CI goes down, or doesn't get completed until it comes back. I don't know if you guys have used Bitbucket, and if you have you seen that kind of experience before?
I've only used GitHub, so I don't know about you, Tom.
I'm mostly a GitHub kind of guy.
Yeah, I think that's what's happening. I've started moving over to GitHub because of that, and I know Bitbucket's been great, and they're it's a great service and everything else, but the private repos. It's funny when you're using automation to try to make your life easier, and then you're like, well, why isn't this working? Why isn't this working? And then you realize you're not getting any notifications in Slack, and then you're chasing down something that's broken in the chain. So
Do you have any luck with their support, contacting them or checking out their service status?
I pinged their. What was funny was I went to Contributor Day, and I had 2 calls with clients in the morning before I went there, and obviously I had some deliverables to meet from the night before, and so I committed my code, kind of just expected it to happen, which probably was a bad thing for me, but kind of expected things to happen, and woke up in the morning and it didn't happen. And then obviously I went through Bitbucket's support channels, as they say, checked their status page. It was all green, everything was good, and then I was like, okay, this is not good, because I'm looking at the repository and I see the commits happening, but in the recent activities it wasn't up to date at all. So then once I got to contributor day, then the status page seemed to update that they knew that they were having some problems. I reached out through their contact support. I also reached through Twitter and things like that, but I never actually got any response from them, which was a little alarming. But at the same time, for me, it doesn't really matter. I don't actually look for a response. I just want them to fix it. Really, that's all I really care about. But so now I'm thinking like, okay, I've started moving some of my clients over to Bitbucket now, GitHub now, and just pony up the money for the private repos.
And how have you been finding Jenkins? Because I've only used Travis CI, so I'm curious to know what you think of Jenkins and so far.
Jenkins is good. I don't know. I haven't really done too many hairy things with it, to be honest with you. But it's fairly simple to set up and simple to use too. So I know that there's plenty of power behind Jenkins as far as being able to deploy full systems and things like that. But I haven't gotten into that just yet.
Okay. And what about you, Tom? What do you guys use at Alley? Do you use Jenkins or Travis or anything like that?
We use Travis for some of our projects. None of the projects that I'm currently on. So I don't have a whole lot of involvement with them at the moment. We also just write a lot of unit tests in general on a lot of our projects, and can never have too many unit tests, so I'm hoping we start writing a lot more. Along with the unit tests, one interesting thing that Scott Taylor mentioned during his talk was the Ajax unit tests that they have in core. And one of the issues with doing core updates is that it takes forever for the Ajax unit tests to go through. And it ends up that there are just a whole bunch of tasks hooked on the init, like checking if it needs to update core and plugins. And since it does a build-up teardown for every test, it runs that whole check on every test. So it was causing everything to take a long time. So one of the cool things he talked about was how they went and fixed that. So now Ajax unit tests will run blazingly fast on doing the core stuff.
Cool.
Yeah, and that was totally a tangent from what you asked me, or knowing what I was going to say.
Do you guys use any behavioral tests or integration tests or anything like that? Like, I know there's Codeception out there, which are actually kind of like mimicking clicks and things like that. Like, do you guys do anything like that?
No, not yet. I think Ryan's been working on some of that stuff in the past for Happy Tables, but that's the only real project that I know where they've been experimenting with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I did a lot of that stuff when I did Ruby on Rails. A lot of the BDD stuff, the behavioral driven design. I know for smaller, like my clients, more of the small business type stuff, I've been starting to look into that more because that's really the effect that they need. Whether or not they click on a buy button, do they get to the cart? When they click on checkout, do they get to the checkout page? That kind of stuff. I've been starting to look into that a little bit over the past 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. I just really haven't really gotten too much into it, but I was curious your guys' thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense for companies who make products, so I think that's why we've been employing it to Happy Tables, because there's obviously consistent behaviors and things that we expect, and us testing it ourselves obviously is time consuming. So yeah, I think that's products for us makes sense. Usually for client work, the client we do internal QA, of course. It's usually simple enough for us to do, and then of course that gets passed on to the client. So they got plenty of time to do testing and things like that. So I think, yeah, for us, makes sense for products, but probably not client work as yet, but depends too. I'm sure that could change in the future.
Because the thing I noticed with some of my clients is when I have one client that they take donations, they also do registration for events and things like that, and there's a lot of user profile kind of stuff going on, and sometimes we'll add features, and I know that the testing really is about like going through and clicking and making sure that obviously people can do what we're trying to do, but then it's worrying about the regression stuff too, make sure they will still be able to do the other stuff. And I know with human intervention, a lot of things like, oh, okay, well that worked last week, that's fine, and sometimes I'm trying to figure out a way that I can integrate some more behavioral test stuff with WordPress. There's not too much out there on it, but maybe I'll
suppose,
find
yeah.
something.
The cool thing is, like, obviously you'd be using WooCommerce a lot, and its behavior is fairly consistent across projects. So once you kind of work out the flow, all right, there are these pages, this is the flow that works, get that down, get it done in one project. It's pretty easy to then take that on to the next one, which is cool. It's just, I guess, the initial setup is going to take a lot of time, but the benefits in the end will definitely be worth it.
Yeah.
And what kind of client work have you been doing, Jason?
A lot of different ones. I've actually kind of started, since I kind of rebranded myself, I guess, over the past year, kind of scaled back a little bit on the design and marketing firms and a lot more small businesses that are kind of more about they put something online to sell or make money or whatever to achieve their business goals. And then it's like 80% of the way there, right? Because it's just out of the box kind of stuff that they put up, but they know that it's working. Now they really want to fit their business into it and do the custom work and stuff like that. So, I've been doing a lot of WooCommerce subscriptions, customization type stuff as usual. A lot of Gravity Forms customization, especially with that one client. Just really get involved with that kind of, being that, I guess, technical partner that they don't have. They're not ready to hire a full-timer, but they need a little bit more than just like, out of the box kind of, let's set up on GoDaddy kind of thing. So been doing that. I also did start, Aaron kind of brought me on board just recently with Condé Nast, so doing a little work for them as well. So
awesome, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Great to work with Aaron. He's a very smart guy and he uses lots of cool tools.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be interesting to see because I haven't worked in such a large scale environment with WordPress before, so it'll be interesting to see how WordPress integrates in the enterprise like that.
Yeah, cool. Do you know much about the deployment process and whether they have any automation?
Yeah,
okay,
they definitely they use Jenkins. They they have definitely a lot of automation.
Yeah, cool.
And I really kind of just started there, maybe 2 weeks ago. And so I'm still ramping up on a lot of different things. Kind of like initially it was more of just learning what the repos were about, what the code base looked like, all the various systems, because they have a lot of custom systems behind the scenes that are, interstitched with WordPress. So understanding those, those links in the chain, so to speak, and now getting on to the real deployment stuff and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, cool. Tom, what about you guys? Because I'm curious about deployments because I've been playing around in the last couple of projects and using Deploybot for, we've got our own internal systems on AWS. We have our own custom deployments there that are pretty cool, but obviously sometimes clients want to be hosted on certain things. So, for example, one client's on Pantheon and we wanted a good deployment process there, so we've been using Deploybot for that. It's been pretty cool. Just wondering what you guys at Alley use for deployments. Have you tried Deploybot? Have you used anything like that?
So we use Pantheon's auto deploys a lot, and that's about as sophisticated as the deploy process goes for that, but it's pretty much all we need. I mean, auto deploys are pretty fantastic, get the job done, and streamline our process a lot. As previously, we had to go and keep multiple repositories synced together and merge things into them and push up. So, on a weekly basis, that definitely adds a bit of overhead. And then most of our clients are on VIP, so we're stuck in the deploy queue there. Not that it's a long queue usually, but go through the review process, and then we do have like Slack integrations to let us know when something was deployed. That's about it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. I've used Deploybot a lot, mainly for those clients that really don't care about that kind of stuff because they are hosted elsewhere. And I didn't really find, initially I was like, all right, I'm going to write Capistrano scripts, for deployments and just own the whole thing. And then, but then you never know, like as far as you don't get SSH access into that server, or you don't know how this service can react with certain things. So it's just, Deploybot was great for that, and it's really customizable as far as, what they seem to add features like almost every other month to help you make it better. So
Yeah, that's what I've really liked too. Because I remember us talking a while back. We were both talking about maybe using Capistrano because we wanted a decent deploy system. But yeah, I think DeployBots filled that void for me too. The next thing that I want to experiment with it is how it's able to actually run your build tasks on a separate server, so it can do all your pre-processing, minification, all that kind of jazz. Main reason that appeals to me is because I don't know about you guys, but on some projects, if you've got multiple devs working on it and there's pull requests sitting there waiting for code review, you hit one of those, they're in, then of course you go to another one, and then there's a merge conflict because the compressed CSS needs to be rebuilt and pushed into that merge thing. So if you can get the compressed CSS out of your workflow, so you're never going to hit those issues, you're going to speed up. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to having that, to get rid of that process just to speed up code review. Because there's nothing more annoying than going, okay, I've reviewed one, and then you ping someone and say, hey, can you rebuild this, and then I'll do code review. It only takes probably 5 minutes more, but hey, if you can get that 5 minutes down and it happens 10 times a day, that's almost an hour. So.
Yep. Yeah, they actually, I think DeployBot's blog had a blog post about how they do that, right?
Yeah. Yep, correct. Yeah, so that's got me going. All right, got to apply that, and then teach the other humans how to do it. So when we use their different hosts, we've got a set workflow there.
Do you actually trigger DeployBot on the commit message? You know that they can do. Okay, so you do that too. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
When I found that out, I was like, oh, I don't even have to even go to the site either. Click the button. I just do it in the deploy message.
And message. Then you get it to push into Slack, and it's like, hey, you've deployed this. You're like, sweet, isn't it? Yeah. Very, very cool.
Very cool. So Tom, I know that you were over in Europe for a little while too.
Yeah, how much stuff has happened since the last time we had a podcast? I also had 3 kids in that time period. I went over. We were working on the Politico Europe launch for their Pro product. So we went over there. The farmers had a strike in Brussels. They drove like 1,200 tractors in there, blocked up the streets. They were shooting the police with cannons full of milk. The police were shooting the farmers with water cannons. So it was pretty intense. I went out for a walk one day at lunch, and I guess I took a wrong left turn, and I ended up being between a barbed wire fence with a bunch of police and riot gear and a bunch of farmers on my right. So
what did that block smell like if they were shooting cannons full of milk everywhere?
Milky?
Oh man, that must have stunk.
Yeah. And then they were driving their tractors down the streets, beeping the horns and stuff. So it was unique. I haven't seen that in the States.
That's crazy.
They also have like the best bread I've ever had. So any sandwich, no matter what's on it, is just like the best thing I've ever eaten. So Brussels was good. We did the launch over there. So I've been working on Politico Europe since then a bit, and it's been fun and challenging. I've definitely been growing my skills a little bit throughout the process, and maybe graying a couple of hairs here and there. So I noticed, Jason, you've gotten stickers since the last time, right? See one right in your mic stand.
Yeah, I got some stickers.
Oh, it looks like your lower third logo thing.
Yep.
Cool.
Some branding,
Yeah.
Cool. And I think Jason, was it Megan Gray did your redesign?
Yes.
Yeah, it looks awesome. It's
thanks.
Really cool.
Yeah, she did a phenomenal job. I mean, she still pings me with, ideas for things,
Awesome.
She's been great, especially with the content too, just the thinking around, instead of talking dev speak, talk client speak instead. Yep. And it's been great.
Yeah, I've had a good look over your site and really impressed. How long did the site build take? Because it's always hard to find time to build your own site.
Yeah, that was one of those things. Like I felt bad because I knew Megan was anxious to get it up because it was pretty much just creative freedom for her. I was like, listen, you're the expert. You know what looks good. You know what I want. That kind of stuff. So it took a while, only because client work and like you said, and then it was just all right. You know what? This day, I'm getting it up. How long do I think, it'll take to build? Really, it was just a matter of I guess, probably about a week and a half of nights to really just put it all together. And then just the different layouts, like as far as the homepage took the longest because of the layout and making sure that that device, various devices and all that. So in some devices, some Android devices, it still doesn't look great, but I don't really worry about it too much. But
Yeah, I find that with most builds, it's usually the homepage that's the trickiest for your front end layout and stuff like that.
yeah, I decided to try out Bourbon and Neat, that grid
Oh, how'd
system.
you find it?
So that was actually really nice because I liked Foundation, and that's usually what I always used. But the way that the way Neat worked was very semantic, and I found myself after a while too, with being late night, that I was like, okay. I started getting like div-itis again, like where I didn't need to do that, and I was like, oh, why do you have all this garbage here? Let's remove this stuff, and go back. And so it was really nice to actually work with that. And I would definitely suggest giving that a look because for me anyway, the reason why I went towards Foundation was because my head was able to wrap around it better than like Bootstrap or something else. This was even easier than that, and it was quicker to actually throw it out there on the page too. So
Cool.
it was really.
And what's the grid system like in there? Because I mean, that's the main thing that appealed to me about Foundation. I love the grid system. It's so easy to get your head around it.
Yeah.
How do you do grids with
Really, it's
Bourbon?
just that's what the Neat component for it is. So you first bring in Bourbon, and then you bring in Neat, and that handles all the grid, and you just basically it's all semantic. So you just basically give it like section, article, aside, and you define those as right or left or however many columns you span columns, whatever it is in the you don't have to add classes to the individual markup, which is really nice.
That sounds really cool. Definitely have to give it a try.
You
Have you used it, Tom?
No, I haven't. I'm kind of interested now. So you still get all the flexibility of maybe being able to do different things on different pages, even without having the specifics of class selectors.
Yeah, and that's what was nice because the thing that I was finding difficult especially for my homepage, because like it's very grid, but like then they're offset, right? So I was having problem in Foundation kind of trying to get that in some sort of way, and at least in a neat way, no pun intended. But then I forget. Actually, it was Sean Melissus. Is it Sean?
Julian?
Julian. He actually suggested that I try Neat, and I was like, okay, let me take a look at that. And it was because it's so independent of each other and it's so semantic that it just, you just apply it to whatever you want it to apply to, and then, then I was able to easily get that offset, for the proper rows and stuff like that. So it was actually really neat to work with. I definitely would suggest if you have a complex grid to check that out.
Cool.
We're going to do an inspect element on your site.
Yeah, I was just about to say we might have to see if we can get access to your private repo for some learning. I know a couple of the human-made team have been using Bourbon and Neat on projects, and we've been talking internally, kind of going, hey, should we work out some kind of consistent grid? Because, I use Foundation on a lot of things just because it's so fast to get things done, and other people have used Bourbon and Neat, but if you're getting a dev jumping on a project to help out and they're new to something, then it's always like it reduced, like it's a longer time to get them up and running. Whereas, if you get something consistent, obviously any project you can jump on, you know how things work. So we're trying to work out what's best. So after that, I'm definitely keen to have a look at Bourbon and Neat. It sounds really cool.
Cool.
Yeah, and the other thing too is a lot of Bourbon's tools, like they have refills, I think it's called, or something like that, where you just pull it in to your code base again, and it gives you like tabs. It automatically gives you like the accordion style kind of stuff, so you can just add these things as you see fit. It's not like you're loading the whole thing. You just load whatever you need to get into.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I found with Foundation we always end up doing like the selective imports just to try and keep the CSS at a minimum, but still it is fairly bloated. But I know in their next version they've reduced the CSS code by, I think, 30 to 40%, which is pretty huge. So it'd be interesting to have a look at Foundation 6.
Jason, I heard you became a moderator on managedwp.org last week.
Yeah, well, you sucked me into that one. Yeah, I guess for the new pro category, Tom and I are going to be moderating the pro articles, which I guess are more, I guess they're articles that are ancillary to WordPress. So like things like about PHP 7, let's say, it's an article on PHP 7, and obviously it would affect WordPress, but there's no mention of WordPress or anything like that. Or it's a business article for freelancers that might be pertinent to, obviously WordPress devs and designers and things like that. So it's a new category that they opened up over there. So it'll be interesting to see the articles that are in there.
Should be kind of cool. I'm hoping that it doesn't turn into this thing that's going to need constant moderation because people are just going to use it as a dumping ground for anything that's not WordPress related. Like I know the first day that it came out, we saw one article get posted there, and it was just a free image website, like stock images, and it's like this really isn't beneficial, and all you did was paste a link. Like there's nothing informational about it otherwise, and I can go and paste 20 websites like that there, and they all serve the same low non-informational purpose. So like that seemed a little bit silly, but like you mentioned, things with PHP 7 or integrations with third-party APIs, and a lot of Chris Lemma's articles are, that kind of content where it's directly or indirectly beneficial to WordPress developers and the WordPress ecosystem, but not specifically telling you like, oh, use this core function in WordPress to go and do something else, or here's a tutorial on how to, change a post in your WP admin. So I think it might serve a good purpose in helping people level up a bit. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Mm-hmm. So did we get into specifics of how your talk actually went, other than you did a talk at WordCamp?
I don't know. Well, I mean, it went well.
Yeah.
It was quick, I guess. It was maybe 20, 25 minutes. I talked about productizing your WordPress service. So it was definitely a business talk. And it was kind of piquing people's interest on, instead of becoming like a theme shop or a plugin shop, take your custom development or custom design and kind of wrap your custom work around systems, so and use systems to help you, optimize your profits, so to speak. So it was good. There's a lot of questions at the end as far as people coming up to me and kind of asking me questions on, they were kind of in various stages of their own business. So they were kind of, some people were asking me, how do you tailor and how do you market to a specific, kind of client? And then other people were asking, how do you find clients? How do you package up these services in such a way so that, people understand what you're doing? If you're doing custom development work, how do you say that to somebody? That kind of stuff. So it was interesting. It definitely, seemed like people liked it. I got some good feedback, on it, and we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll speak again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You have any others coming up this year?
Any other WordCamps?
Yeah.
No, not yet.
How about meetups? You wanna?
Putting me on the spot, huh?
Yeah, definitely. We do the monthly Dev Hack Night meetup, so maybe something on Bourbon and Neat would fit in there.
Yeah, that might be good. I'd have to brush up on Bourbon and Neat again.
It's always a good thing, right?
Yeah.
If you can explain it to others, you understand it better yourself, I think.
True.
So did you have a pre-lunch talk? Like it was before lunchtime?
Yeah, it was at 10:15, I guess it was. Yeah.
So what do you think? How was the energy level of the audience? Do you think they were hungry or they were, content and not in a food coma?
No, I think they were good. I think they seemed, at least, energy-wise, I mean, seemed like everybody was awake, which was good. That's really all I cared about. I didn't want anybody's heads down on the table, so I figured if that was the case, then something's wrong. But other than that, it seemed like the energy level was pretty good.
Cool. Yeah, it seems like sometimes, depending on the camp and the people, like the Sunday talks in the morning can be a little interesting, depending on how hard people partied the night before.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I was wondering about that too, and I was kind of glad that it wasn't the 9 o'clock. You
Yeah.
know, if I was the 9 o'clock, maybe it would have been less people. But being 10 o'clock, I was like, okay, it's mid morning, people are awake, they've had coffee, maybe, that kind of stuff. And the volunteer that was actually in there was saying that it was the largest group of people in that room that he saw. So that was good.
Nice. Yeah, when I was talking, my microphone ended up dying, and that was kind of interesting.
Oh yeah.
I had like this wireless clip-on mic, and then at one point, everyone in the audience started yelling at me that the mic died, and then I just started, yelling at them to project, and then someone, well, the MC was my friend David, who's actually like 20 feet away from me, one of my coworkers. He gave me the microphone that we use for the audience. So then, I just used that mic. They ended up replacing the battery in the other one, but at that point, it's like I got to go and re-mic the lavalier, and then you get all the fuzz sound from it banging against your shirt, kind of like I was doing with my microphone before. So, it was cool. And then question and answer time came around, and now we have the one microphone. So I'm just running back and forth down the aisle and stuff, and it was like I was Ricky Lake hosting a talk show or something.
Ricky Lake, jeez.
It was nice. I felt like I got an extra 500 steps on my Fitbit. All in all, it makes it a little bit more dynamic. Also, I was using my Myo, which is like a wearable that measures the muscle impulses in your arm. So it allows me to go and control my presentation with hand gestures. So then I don't have to be like stuck behind a podium hitting the next arrow on my presentation. And I literally demapped everything except for the next button so that I didn't end up like flailing an arm and going back 10 slides. It was kind of mixed results on that. It worked pretty well, and then I think I walked a little too far away, and then it disconnected, so then I had to run back and hit the next button again on the laptop. So it was cool, and I like changing things up a little bit and trying something out that's slightly different. And I feel like if I'm standing behind the podium the whole time, because I'm stuck in one position, I end up speaking a lot more monotone. And if I can go and get away from there and flail a hand here and there, then maybe I'm a little bit more dynamic tonality-wise.
And you're not worried about like the tech not working like that?
Yeah, totally am.
Oh, okay.
But it makes things a little bit more fun and interesting.
Yeah.
So like when I walked away a little too far and it disconnected, yeah, that was tech not working, But hey, we're at a tech conference and people are like, "Whoa, how's he making the thing move with his arm?" So it becomes a conversation piece.
What was the gesture?
It was a double tap with my fingers.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's something I'm unlikely to do when I'm just talking.
Yeah, if you like go like that or something like that.
Yeah. And that's a valid gesture. Also, you can do like a fist and an open for like zooming in and out and that kind of thing. So I got rid of all of those and just simplified it to, one motion. But I did it when I was in Columbus, and the majority of the questions I ended up getting during the Q&A were about the device rather than the talk I gave.
That's funny. Yeah. I got a comment that the actual mic that they handed around was a lot clearer than the lavalier mic. So I just figured that's probably just the, being it wireless, or the amplifier that's in the microphone itself. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I was wearing a T-shirt too, and usually I wear a button down, and I feel like you can get the lavalier in a much better position when you're doing it like on the seam of the shirt rather than just like up at your collar. So that probably didn't help much when I still had batteries in my wireless lavalier mic. But whatever. It all worked out in the end, and it was nice that we had two mics in the room, so that other one was there when we hit that failure. So
that's cool. So you talking at anything, Bronson?
Yeah, I'm actually flying down to Melbourne later this month to do a talk at the meetup down there. It's been a while since I've been down there, and one of my friends is having a birthday, so I thought, why not time it around the WordPress meetup? So yeah, I'm going to do a talk on John Blackbourne's Query Monitor, because I don't think many people use it as much as they should, and it's a really handy tool, and there's a lot more stuff inside Query Monitor, and John's even trying to work out a way to kind of rename it, because it does a hell of a lot more than just monitoring WordPress queries. Yeah, so pretty keen to do that. And yeah, I use it a lot at work. And it's like Tom, you were saying before, when you actually give a talk, you have that incentive to learn a little bit more, and you obviously have to do some good use cases. So me doing that will push me to do that.
Mm-hmm. You ever go and propose a talk on something you know almost nothing about in order to force yourself to learn it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, for me anyway, I need to be a little bit under pressure in order to make progress.
Well,
So,
considering you didn't do your slides until like an hour before the talk anyway.
yeah, that's quite pressure, whatever. Yeah, definitely a lot of pressure on that. I was running around so much that I just didn't sit down to like do my slides, and then it was like, oh, 20 minutes until stage time. Should probably iron this out. So I'm giving a talk on creating like a productive environment, everything from like the space around you and your lifestyle and diet and whatever, all the way to dev tools and stuff. So I'm going to be talking a bit about unit testing, which is something that I'm nowhere near as good at as I'd like to be. So I figure I'll have to learn quite a bit about unit testing if I'm going to deliver a talk going over the topic. So that'll be my bit of learning for the month.
Yeah, I usually find I'll pick a topic that I think I know about like 80% of what I think's there to be learnt, and then yeah, learning that extra 20%, you'll find out there's another 40% there that you didn't know about. So that's what I think with Query Monitor. I'll learn a lot more while I'm doing this talk.
How far away is Melbourne from you?
It's I think a 2.5-hour flight. So for Australia, that's not far. Okay. I know for you guys, that's like halfway across the country. That's 2 states away for me.
Nice. Yeah, I think I sometimes forget how big of a place it is over there.
Yeah. And Jason, I think you actually did another podcast with Troy Dean, didn't you? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I did. I hosted his 100th episode. It was kind of funny though. When he had me on the show, I don't remember the number. It was in the 80s somewhere, and he asked, his final question of who I wanted, him to interview. So I kind of figured, I was like, oh, I'll flip the script a little bit. I admittedly I didn't listen to all 80 people before that, but I was like, I haven't heard somebody say him, him go on the show. So I did that, and then he kind of flipped the table around on me. He goes, well, now I got to find somebody to host it. So I was like, all right, I guess I'll host it. I can do that. So yeah, it was fun. It was funny too because we had several attempts to try to connect on doing it, and then when we finally connected on doing it, the recording didn't happen. So when he went to go, I guess, publish the post or whatever, I got an email the next morning saying, I hate to do this, but can we re-record, or do you have a recording of the call? I'm like, no, I didn't record it because I thought you were doing that. I asked you. But, these things happen, and we just did it again, and it was a good time. Learned some stuff about Troy that I didn't know about. Didn't know he was as much of a voiceover guy as he was, or is, or, and he's sings
the Cadbury jingle as well.
I found that out through his LinkedIn profile, and I had no idea. I was like, okay, I got to find out about this. So it was good. It's always good to see like, other sides of people. It's funny because like, in this community, you know who the developers are, you know who the designers are, or the business people. It's always I find it interesting to, understand a little bit more of what they like, who they are as a people, that kind of stuff, and that type of stuff interests me. So it was a good time.
Cool. Unfortunately, I kind of have to bolt in the next couple of minutes, but
cool.
Don't let that stop you guys from enjoying your time together.
I think we've pretty much covered what we had in the show notes.
Yeah, I think that was a good wrap up. I mean, I think we had a big hiatus. It was several months, so hopefully we can get back on. We were doing that every Monday, and it was actually working out very good. I had people at WordCamp asking me what was going on with the show too, so we definitely appreciate all the audience members out there that are tuning in and staying with us through our irregularity, and we definitely appreciate that.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
we'll try and line up someone during the week for next week and keep the ball rolling.
And I think if anyone has any suggestions on things that they really want to hear about on next week's podcast, let us know on Twitter or elsewhere on the internet universe, and maybe we can go and incorporate that next week.
Yeah.
Totally. I'm up for it.
Cool. Do you want to do the wrap up, Jason?
Sure. So, Bronson, where can people reach out and say thanks?
Cool. They can find me on Twitter at Bronson Quick, or one word. Yep, that's me.
Tom, where can people reach out and say thanks?
No, don't talk to me. Totally kidding. Tom Harrigan on Twitter is probably the best way to ever get in touch with me, more so than email.
Awesome. And at Rez on Twitter or at WP DevTable also. And want to thank everybody for tuning in. And we're going to get the show up next week. And if you want to find out when we actually publish, go to wpdevtable.com/subscribe. And please remember to share, like, subscribe, do all the Twitters and Instagrams and all the interweb stuff out there. And if you're a first timer, definitely check out our past shows and get your dev on.
Cool. See you guys next
Thanks,
week.
guys.
Catch you later.